Yeah, hello and welcome to a new episode of our weekly Spielworxx chat season 2. My name is Uli Blennemann, but I'm having a guest today, Daniel Theuerkaufer of Board Game Circus. Hello, Daniel. How are
Hi,
you?
Uli. Hi, everyone. I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Excellent. And today we will talk about Daniel's game company, Board Game Circus. And before we really start, I'd like to post the URL of the company so that you can check it out later. So this is the URL. And hello, Matze. Good to see you. Hello, Mo. Greetings to Texas. Good seeing you. If you have, and by the way, if you have any questions or comments, please post them in the chat window, and Daniel might even respond. So we'll see. And hello, Claude. Hello to Quebec, and hello, Nicolas. Good seeing you. And Bochum is there. So Marcus, good seeing you. Um, First, Daniel, please give us some background of yourself. Please tell us some details about the person Daniel.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm happy to do that. So, I am Daniel, head of Board Game Circus, which is a publishing house and translation studio. And yeah, what can I say about myself? So, I'm living with my three kids, my wife, and a family, managing all this, which started out as a self-made project and is, growing bigger, and I'm trying to develop this whole thing. I initially was a media designer, or probably still am, because I'm still doing the all the print files and everything at Board Game Circus. Yeah, and from there on developed, this interest in print products and creating print products, and through the extra route of being a record label, which I did for 10 years, publishing music, I became someone who's publishing board games.
Mm. So a great career. So for a second, let's talk about the record business. So which type of music? Everything, or are you having some favorite types of music, Daniel?
I mean, the worst answer when you answer a question, when you're asking someone what's your favorite type of music, the worst answer is, oh, I listen to everything. So obviously it wasn't everything. It was mostly indie pop and rock, and I managed artists from Sweden, Norway, Germany, and we had one band from Canada.
Mhm.
Most of them are still active, by the way, but in the respective countries. And yeah, I made this from with a friend, together with a friend. We started it in 2003 and made this for 10 years and ended it by the end of 2012 because he moved on doing something
Mhm.
different. He's currently working with Board Game Circus, which is a funny episode. But yeah, that
Mhm.
was the music business. Mostly, DJing, managing bands, being around concerts,
Mhm.
organizing concerts, all this stuff.
Mhm. Interesting, very interesting. So, but first, when did you found Board Game Circus, and what was the reason to found Board Game Circus?
Probably more than one reason. So when I stopped the record label, I took a year off of being self-employed, worked as a media designer, and because it was very exhausting, although it was
Mm,
fun.
yeah. Mhm.
And after a year, I started getting nervous again because I have this gene that you want to be an entrepreneur. I
Mhm.
have so many ideas in my head that I want to try, I want to develop.
Mhm.
So in between, I started a small business with my wife that she's still running, which
Mhm.
is a rental service for antiques, for decoration, and for flowers that you can, book her to make your wedding great. And I started that with her and built that up. And later on, coming back to Board Game Circus, I recognized through surfing on Board Game Geek and also on Kickstarter the need of international publishers and designers to get maybe help entering the German speaking market.
Mhm.
And when I realized that this might be a niche that some people need help with, and I like, making enabling people. I like enabling people, and I wanted to enable these publishers and
Mhm.
designers whose games I found interesting and whose artworks I found more interesting than what we have in Germany.
Oh.
I started to develop this service, which was, a mix of marketing and localization translation,
Mhm.
bringing their games into the German-speaking market. And back at that time, which was 2015, Board Game Circus was only that service provider. There was no publishing house inside. So from, I guess, 2015 to 2017, it was just, going to Spielen Essen, representing other brands with their games that I had in my suitcase, showing these to potential licensing partners, etc., helping them with marketing, doing graphics, managing Kickstarter campaigns. I did several Kickstarter campaigns behind the curtain for other companies. And only in 2017, I think it was, when we had a Kickstarter for the game Heldentaufe, which was also a connection I made through the Swiss team of Heldentaufe that wanted to have someone who's marketing their game. That only then it was when I realized I could be a publisher, and thus, Heldentaufe was the first published game in 2017. And at that point, one of our co-workers, Alexander, who is still a translator with Board Game Circus, thought that it would be maybe great to, publish games ourselves. And yeah, what can I say? At this point, I didn't even think it was a great idea. I felt we're a good service provider, and of course, it felt natural in a way because we have all these contacts and there are so many interesting games on our table, and we could just pull what we think is great and publish it ourselves. But I felt that we need, a better base in Germany than we had, because no one knew us, and we were mostly known outside of Germany to the people working with us, but not inside Germany. And I had no connections like you have to the old scene in Germany, the classic scene of the well-known publishers. I'm still an outsider in a way. So I thought we first need a platform on which we can sell these games. And so I started together with my team to build up what we call Board Game Circus distribution, making connections to retailers, trying to convince them of the catalog, which back then consists only of third-party titles, to put them in their stores, because I thought before we start publishing games with our logo on it, we should be able to sell these games and not the other way around, like making games and not knowing where to sell them. And that's when, Board Game Circus distribution was born, and at the same time, more or less, it was with the first game Heldentaufe, and then soon after that, more games that we published ourselves.
Yeah, so an interesting. So this is so you basically started in 2010. Is this correct with
No,
Board Game Circus?
2015.
15 only. Okay, so if you see that's really a pretty short time, but you did a lot. Talking about translation work for a second. So you started in a way by this, and you're still providing this service. So which languages are you translating? Is it everything into German, or into which other languages could you translate game rules or localize whole games?
Yeah. So this whole localizing business is still a very big part of Board Game Circus, probably like 50% of the company, although it's not really seen in Germany. So if you ask someone what's Board Game Circus, they probably recognize us for the games that we've made with our logo on them. But actually, we've made many, many more games that don't have our logo on them, that we localized for third parties like Pegasus, Yellow, Portal Games. And we have many publishers like AEG or Hobby Japan that we are regularly translating for. In this team, we have like 15 to 20 people, which is a freelance team, of course. Not everyone is employed at Board Game Circus. It's a fixed freelance connection that we've made with teams in France, Spain, Portuguese. We have a Russian team. We have the Netherlands, Italy. I don't know, it's probably like 7 or 8 languages that we're regularly translating to or from. So it's not only translating into the German market, we're now also translating board games into several other popular board gaming languages. Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. And viewers, publishing houses, if you see this, getting in touch with Board Game Circus. If you are looking for a translation into a different market. So these are the experts. So very good. And I'm seeing Daniel here. So two Daniels
Hi, Daniel.
there. And I think, Daniel, you got your second vaccination today, right? Yeah. So you are the
Awesome.
lucky ones. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, Daniel, back to you. So, if you look back into the history of Board Game Circus, is there anything you are considering as milestones? So, what was important for Board Game Circus?
Yeah. I recently said that I'm not very well connected or wasn't very well connected, to the local board gaming business scene, if you want. So, like the companies like Frosted Games, etc., which we are friends now with. But back then in 2017, when I started, I wasn't known to anyone and I had no connection. It was really hard to get through with what I wanted to do. And I would consider it a milestone probably that after releasing enough games and doing a good job that we've done at Board Game Circus, people started to accept us. I mean, it's not that I'm looking for that kind of exception in a way that they said, yeah, well done, Daniel, but it's obviously nice that especially my team who's doing the translation work or the people that are developing the games or the designers we're working with are recognized now. So this is like a combined milestone, a combined milestone of what we have achieved and the we, because
Mm-hmm.
I've always been a team player, and although I'm the one who's risking all this with my persona, my money, my vision, etc., there's a team with me, and it has always been my dream not to sit here working alone and have the people around me that are working with me and provide them a job, provide them fair payment for their contribution to Board Game
Yeah.
Circus. So that's probably the biggest milestone, that we are now at a point where we barely have, or barely is probably the wrong word, I'm using it the wrong way, where we just have the amount of money that we need to pay everyone and also make some products. It's not
Yeah.
like we're making big profit, um, and we're probably coming to that later, that would allow us to develop big games. Hence, we're doing mostly smaller games at Board Game Circus, but at least we're working in a way, or the company is working in a way that allows us to pull out a little bit of money to buy some bread and butter and still do board games. So we're very close to, yeah, what we had envisioned in the first place.
Yeah, yeah, everybody needs or should have a warm meal a day. So I understand this very well. And what I like really here, Daniel, is that you are putting your team, the people, into the light and mentioning them as milestones and not necessarily the products. The products are there. Without products in our board gaming business, there is hardly a board gaming business apart from your
Right.
translation work. But of course, without good people, we all are nothing. We are really nobodies. So, yeah. So I like this. But games, can you still mention two or three games that you did which you say, well, these are outstanding products? I'm so happy seeing them.
Well, since you said games that you made, it's hard to do that because most of the games have been made by others and we localized them. I mean, it's not like localizing is nothing. It
No.
is also an effort that you do on the games and it requires a lot of attention to detail. But the games that worked best for us and are good sellers, given our company being very small, that's Qbirds, which was the
Mm-hmm.
best release in 2019 from Catch Up
Mm-hmm.
Games. I don't know, where is it? Do I have it here? This small game with
Mm-hmm.
the cute bird on it.
Mm-hmm.
And from the same year, 2019, we had Buntes Burano, which is a German version of Walking in Burano.
Mm-hmm.
And these two games helped us to get over, some games that didn't work that well, and I consider them the games that did best in 2019 and allowed us to do another year, 2020, with more good games. That is like Lock and Roll, the German version of Rollercade, which is doing very well, and our actual bestseller, but this is also like a localized game, is Wildes Weltall, the German version of Wild Space, and Wild Space and Q-Birds are from catch-up games that I licensed with BlackRock from France,
Mm.
which is a very good partnership. And which is also a thing I like these partnerships, right?
Yes.
Because we can all contribute in all directions, and I don't feel like I want to do my own things all the time. I really want to do things with others. So probably we could check this off as a milestone too by saying it's good that these companies trust us
Yes.
publishing their games in Germany and being partners with Emperor's 4 Games, BlackRock, and what have we.
So very very good. But then we are moving to early 2020,
Yeah.
and COVID-19 hits us. So how has this changed the work of Board Game Circus? How has this changed the work at Board Game Circus? So what has it done to you and your company, Daniel?
On multiple levels. This has been difficult. I mean, the charm about Board Game Circus and everyone working at Board Game Circus is that they can work from home. So it didn't change much for my employees because everyone was already in their home office. Yeah, that's the one thing that didn't change. What did change is that we all have to lock doors now because all the kids are at home and it's hard to find some quiet time. And to be honest, I don't have more like 4 hours a day working on Board Game Circus. The rest is, baking bread, doing the family and stuff like that. But yeah, when the first lockdown in Germany came, I think it was late March, April 2020. I just came back from the Nuremberg Toy Fair, which I could still participate in, although it already felt strange because it was very empty. I don't know if you were there, but the
No?
halls, no, the halls were very empty, and you had these dispensers everywhere to disinfect your hands, and there was a sense of something's not right here in the air, but you could still do your business. And when I came back, there was pretty much after it the lockdown, and the first lockdown, which also meant all stores had to close, and there was no concept like click and collect, which we have now, or that you can get a fixed date
Yeah.
if you have a test in a store and you can at least go shopping. Nothing like that existed, and it hit us really hard because we had planned a release for the Spiel in Duisburg, which is probably the second biggest fair in Germany now after Spiel, and we had a plan to release this little game from Rainer Knizia, and which is Carte.
Okay.
And actually, I thought it would go really well on this fair because we're performing quite well on a fair where we can present the games in person and show people how easy they are, but what depth there is to them. This failed big time. The game came out and it went unnoticed. It took probably half a year for the game to take up some speed, and now it's doing okay. Yeah, it's not like it's a miss or something like that, but it really hit the game hard, and it also hit us because we couldn't do the promotion they wanted to do in the way we had planned it. And ultimately, Board Game Stock is a company that needs retailers for their recommendations. If someone goes into a store and wants a family game, and we consider us a family game company or family plus with a bit higher level of complexity, I need the retailer to recommend a game to them. Like when they want to get a Skippo, that they
Yeah.
say, "Hey, I have a Q-Birds for you. How about a Q-Birds?" Right? People that are in our target group wouldn't automatically buy a Board Game Circus game because they don't know Board Game Circus. They know Ravensburger, they know
Yeah.
Cosmos, and probably Pegasus. So they buy a game that they have heard of in another family with friends, but they don't buy Board Game Circus games. And all this fell apart when the store closed, and I could really see it in the sales in April and May that we were in a hole. There was a hole in the otherwise okay curve. Yeah.
And are you, Daniel, one quick question here. I totally understand. Are you relying in a large way on direct sales, or you described you rely mainly on retailers? But you are saying, well, then you are using a fair like Spieldoch in Duisburg, not necessarily for sales, but to get well known. Is this correct? Or
That's correct. Yeah.
so
I
so?
consider ourselves big enough to not rely on direct sales on a fair. Of course, it's very nice that you can sell, hundreds of games in just 3 days, and you're done. You have your costs in. That's awesome. But the strategy for Board Game Circus, like I said previously, when starting with the distribution before I even started selling games, always has been that we need to partner with stores, that we need to get scale, because economics of scale is the only thing that allows a small company like us making games in the first place. Because production of just 1,000 copies is so expensive. So I had to get to 2,000 copies, and now I trying to get to 3,000 copies, because everything's getting so much more expensive, like the transportation, the paper, cardstock, etc., that we have to print more and more games to get the costs per copy down. But of course, I also need to be able to sell these games. So that's what hopefully answers the question. And like
Yes.
when this get down in April, it was a bit worse then, but got better soon after when there was some normality in summer of 2020. Although we already knew we couldn't do fairs. That was then Spiel Digital which was pretty good for us, because we did everything to go digital as much as we could, and I think we did quite well compared to other publishers, because we didn't stop learning all the new tools, sitting around trying how we can best stream and what content we can offer, how we can make these virtual gaming tables running, etc. So we had a very good Spiel Digital on our end with great feedback, and this helped us a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. And as a visitor, I attended Spiel Digital, and in contrast, especially to quite a few large German publishing houses, you did a great job, because as people who also attended Spiel Digital can also say, lots of I won't mention any names again. Lots of the larger publishers, they had nothing basically as program. You could watch all day pre-recorded videos, and that's about it. And this, of course, for a fair or even a digital one, is not enough. And by the way, hello Nick here. Good to see you. So what are the greatest problems Board Games Circus is facing right now? You touched upon it a little bit. Paper costs, transportation. Is it also? Oh, what else? What else are you seeing?
Yeah. It's a mix of those, because we have, of course, great ideas how the games should look like, what shape they should have, what materials, what components, and we want to combine the best possible product at a price that works for the customers and that also allows us to make profit for developing more games, in the best case, environmentally friendly. And this is where I'm currently really losing everything, because it's not possible, to do everything that customers expect nowadays in Germany.
Yeah.
We can't do laser cut meeples, so we can't do custom shapes. I don't know the English word for what the technique in Germany is, but it's a Fräse, and where
Don't
what the
ask
master.
me. I'm too stupid for that. So
Yeah,
for the
but
English term.
in general, currently, what drives me nuts really are the waiting times in Germany, which is a year now, is in the facility that I'm usually working with. If I place an order now, I will have the games in a year, but that's for me not quick enough to react on the market or to
No.
react on requests or do a reprint or whatever. And I can't plan a reprint now for a game in a year when
No.
it's really difficult. That's one of the big issues we're currently facing. The option, of course, would be to go to China, where they can do everything and in a very neat and good quality. But then again, you don't know exactly how is it manufactured, so you have to choose, the best Asian manufacturers that apply to various standards that you would expect. But then there's still transportation.
Yes.
And for example, when we got the first wave of Wildes Weltall, it already started to get more expensive sea freight, because there's a lack of containers, which is a global issue
Yeah.
and already has been an issue before the pandemic, but it's of course getting worse now. And the shortage of containers means containers are getting more and more expensive. And for 1,000 copies of the game that I ordered for the initial wave, I was facing an extra charge of plus $800. That's like almost 80
80
cents
cents per
a game,
game, yeah.
right? And you know what that means, cutting down the profit. So this is something we haven't found a solution for, because we want to offer the quality that people expect and that we envision for the game, to transport, if there's something like a message of the game, to transport the message of the game, or what we wanted people to feel and experience with the game, and yet can't do it here. That's something, and also others I'm talking to haven't yet found a solution for, because there is no solution,
Yeah.
obviously.
No. Right now there isn't. And what really drives me crazy is these long lead times that you mentioned of 10 or 12 months. And when I talked recently to a nice person from a large game company, but they said, well, where's the problem? You can manage this. You can already now get printing time for October or for December. Yes, this is probably true, but you have to see the scale of businesses. This may be true for large companies where they schedule everything so many times in advance, and but for small companies like Board Game Circus, surely for Spielworxx, this is impossible to do. And second thing is, if I would talk to a German company and I would say, well, let's block a printing slot for November, they would maybe say, well, we can do this. And when I'm then saying, well, I want to block it for 1,000 copies, they immediately stop talking to me. So you see, it's a very, very difficult
Yeah.
situation that is really coupled with transportation costs. And this is, as you said, Daniel, really right now I don't see a solution for this. Yeah. And
Yeah.
by the way, we are having an answer here from Nicolas. Fräsen is to milling. So if
You're
you're
right. Yeah,
milling
milling.
milling a meatball, so
Thank
yeah,
you.
yeah, indeed. Thank you, Nicolas. Um, Daniel, where do you see Board Game Circus in the future? Let's say, where do you see Board Game Circus next year? So 12 months from here, or maybe in 3 years, or maybe in 5 years.
Yeah, so for next year, I'm hoping to see some normality coming back to every one of us, right? Because I hope that everyone will have seen at least the first vaccination by then, and we can get back to normal without staying inside our home, locking us in all the time. And this should also do great job for the mental health, of course,
Yeah.
which helps having more ideas, having more creativity, because right now everything's mostly maintaining, running the company, but there's no creative room. We can't meet, we can't do playtests. I can only playtest at home, but that's not my regular group. So my vision for the next year is some more normality, and going back to where Board Game Circus was before the pandemic, plus adding on top what we have achieved meanwhile. So even going back to normality should be pretty great for us now, I think, because we can, proceed being
Yeah.
successful as we were before on a small level. Of course, I'm not, being arrogant here, but it makes me really happy to see that it's working. And the larger vision, like, because you asked, that's something I have in mind for Board Game Circus and my team and me, is that we could all, have a full-time job of it. Because, like I said, it's only 4 hours for me. I have a part-time worker, I have a mini jobber, but we all want to go full-time with a normal salary. Like, no one wants to drive a Mercedes out there, but with a normal salary, working on what we love, and building this team.
Yes.
And I have a vision for it, maybe if that's interesting for the viewers. There's
Of
this
course.
magazine in Germany, which is a Catapult magazine.
Hmm.
It's a magazine consisting of facts. Very good to show friends that don't believe in facts, because it makes facts graphically understandable. And the Catapult magazine has a system where everyone in the company, which is like 35 people, earns the same amount of money. So
Hmm.
all have the same annual salary, no matter if it's a cook in the canteen or if it's a lead editor. And that's what I envision for Board Game Circus, because you were asking me. I want to have Board Game Circus as a solitary run company, with everyone who's working in it having pure joy with their work and an outcome.
Yeah, and this is a really really great aim. So yes, and I wish you here the best for this. And Daniel, do you see Spiel in October happening, or how do you see Spiel?
That's hard to say. For me, I have decided to wait until the very last minute, which would be the 14th of May, to make a decision whether I want to join or not, and see, how everything progresses. But since progress is very slow currently, it's hard to give an answer.
Yeah,
I don't want to annoy Dominique, right? Because she knows that I'm a bit skeptic. It would be great if it can happen. Would I participate with my team? It depends on how much risk is involved, and also, if the costs are,
yeah,
manageable in relation to what we can expect. Because it could be great, actually. I thought, because it's of course, more positive for the German publishers who have a very short way. But if others from Asia, the US, etc., won't come, then there's more exclusive exposure, if you want so, right? It could be beneficial for those that are already here. Of course, it will not be the same like a regular Spiel, but if visitors concentrate on less companies, it could theoretically be beneficial for us. Then again, I expect less visitors, so
of
there's really
course.
no predicting
Yeah.
this.
No, no, right. And then we are here speculating about this almost weekly on a weekly
Yeah.
basis. So I'm always interested in hearing different
Uh, if I
opinions.
if I might add that
Of
we have
course.
stopped speculating at all, right? And I feel relieved in a way. We're now not doing games for a certain release days. We're
Yes.
now only doing
Yeah.
games for the best possible product, and it's ready when it's ready. And it feels really good to do that, because we've already, felt the difference. The only difficulty being, of course, what we just said, manufacturing, because that's still a very hard fact. Manufacturing is nothing that you can shift around, but everything else you can shift around and adapt to the situation, adapt to your personal situation at home, how much time everyone can contribute. So somehow, yeah, we found some more positivity in not working to these deadlines that the conventions provide.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And you see some bright people, at least at Cosmos or at Amigo, of course, they did it in this way for years. They always released games, at least at the latest in September for Essen, and did not wait till the last possible moment, because it's unhealthy to have several hundred new games just for at the same week. It's actually not a good idea. And maybe this is even a good thing that we are not thinking anymore in terms of Nuremberg and Essen. So it's a full year for releases. Maybe you should not release on the 28th of December. So I'm not certain about that, but otherwise, yeah,
Yeah.
why not? Yeah, Daniel, thank you very much. So this was a pleasure having you here, and really thank you for your insights in your business. And I really, really hope that, of course, for everybody, circumstances change, but that your aims for Board Game Circus in the near and in the far future, that everything will happen in this way.
Yeah.
And so that would be wonderful. And how can people reach you, Daniel?
So in like 5 minutes, I will switch over to the Kickstarter campaign we've launched today. And the best possible way for you to reach me is probably looking at the Discord server that we have, or joining the Kickstarter campaign. That would be Hidden Leaders, which funded in this second. In this second, it
So
reaches
more
funding
great
goals.
news, and I'm just
Yeah, that's great
posting.
news. Awesome. I told the team that I won't won't be available for the next hour, and the game is funded right now, which is amazing. I will be on Discord. We have a Discord server that you can find under discord.boardgamecircus.com. And it's a German but also English speaking community. And there you will find me during the next hours before I go to bed or do family things. And yeah, that's probably the best place where you can be closest to everyone of Board Game Circus.
So that was another good thing, and I added the URL of the Kickstarter campaign here. So please check it out, everyone. And yeah, Next week will be a regular episode with me presenting Spielworxx and industry news. And thank you for your time, everyone. And if you have any questions that you'd like to ask in advance or anything, any comments, any topics for future episodes, just get in touch at uli@spielworxx.de. That is uli@spielworxx.de. And till next week, bleibt gesund. Halbfinale nur mit Iserlohn. Black Lives Matter. Bye bye. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.